So there's a drone over a sensitive military installation. We already have the capabilities electronically and even physically, kinetically, to neutralize those instantly. I do think there's a national security issue here. I think it's very important that we have this discussion. This is a big deal. It's on every major media outlet right now, I think for good reason. No one seems to know what's going on. I do think that some people do know what's going on. Being seen, eyewitnesses, both on the civilian side, also federal side, also law enforcement, not only seeing these things, but they're videoing them on camera. This is not a U.S. problem. This is a problem that we're seeing, frankly, around the world, around a lot of our installations. And what we do know is that these things are being seen over New Jersey, but they've also seen over the president's, future president's Mar-a-Lago location as well. We've seen them over recently Langley Air Force Base down by the Chesapeake. And let's not forget that several years ago, roughly 5 years ago, we had the same issue in Colorado. There are people that are getting very concerned about this topic because these things are not only flying over controlled airspace, but they're also flying over civilian and populated areas. What I want to do is talk to you about two other possibilities regarding these drones. And again, let me emphasize here, these are only hypothetical, but I don't think we can discount them. If we're talking about an SUV-sized drone, okay, these are not hobby drones. Something like that would be enormously expensive. And then you've got a problem with power, right? These drones tend to be electrically powered, meaning there's a battery in there, usually some sort of lithium-ion battery that you can recharge, and you can fly these things around. And if you're lucky, you get 15, 20 minutes as a result. That's not the case here. Some of these drones are being seen for, in some cases, hours. Then you have another issue here. So you have the loiter problem, where these things are flying for hours, not minutes. You have the size problem. These are huge in some cases. An SUV is a very large, you're talking a very substantial size drone. This is not a quadcopter. This is something different, something bigger, something that potentially a human being could fit into. We still don't have any points of origin where these things are coming from, right? Now we have radar, a very, very capable radar that we use to track aircraft, and there's transponders in those aircraft that, if you will, they squawk their location and their identity, but we're not seeing that with these drones. These drones are flying anonymously and in some cases appear to be communicating with each other or coordinating their movement with each other. So if these are drones, these are certainly something far more sophisticated than what we're used to dealing with, certainly as civilians. Probably there's a potential that these are not foreign adversarial drones. If they are drones and they are big and they're large and they're sophisticated, then they're probably our drones. Now, when I say our drones, someone in the U.S. government. So one scenario could be, and again, let me just emphasize here, I don't want anybody to freak out, but one scenario here could be that these are our drones being lent by one of our organizations, maybe an intelligence organization, to another domestic organization that's very concerned about our security. Perhaps there is a scenario where there's an adversarial nation, maybe we got a report or suspicion that some adversarial nation has a weapons of mass destruction somewhere here in the continental United States, and so we are deploying these vehicles in an attempt to sniff them out, if you will, try to locate these things, if it's true. Again, I have no information to indicate that there is indeed some sort of broken arrow situation or where we have some sort of weapons of mass destruction here in the continental United States, but it would explain a lot of the responses we're seeing, right? Where local law enforcement isn't being informed of what's going on, state law enforcement and officials aren't being informed, and yet someone in a federal agency is spending money and time and resources to do this. Now, what scenario would predicate such an act? Well, if there was something so scary, so dangerous, that maybe they don't want to scare the people. Maybe they want to try to do this in a way that doesn't cause mass panic, right, or something to that degree. Again, let me just emphasize, I don't know this to be true. It's just a hypothesis. Another option is possibly that these things aren't always drones. They could be confused. You could have, in some cases, because some people reported these large triangles, in some cases these drones are flying silently with no sound, a UAP being seen over a sensitive U.S. facility or installation. And so what do? We launch our drones because typically in the past we used to fly helicopters, but helicopters are expensive. And let's face it, you may have one or two if you're lucky, if it's available to you. And there's time it takes to get a pilot, wake them out of bed, have them go to the helicopter, start it up and fly it. By then, whatever it is you're chasing is long gone. So it makes sense that you have these quick response, quick reaction drones on or near military installations that if there was an event, you could launch these immediately. In fact, almost autonomously, and they would all go to a pre-arranged location and start surveying the area to see if they can find what's in and around the area. So is it possible that some people are seeing UAP initially, and then the government's response is to launch these drones to try and find these things? In a relatively quick and efficient manner. And so what people are seeing in some cases, some are seeing the initial UAP, whereas others are now seeing the follow-on response, the U.S. response, and trying to identify these things. And I just want to make sure that as we have this conversation and we move forward, that it's not necessarily just an either-or situation. It might not be. It might be a combination of everything. I point to this drone conversation. It is a national security issue, but it's not just New Jersey. We've been seeing these all over the place, to include over in Europe, here in the United States, and it wasn't just recently. Going all the way back to, if you remember, the drone issues that we were encountering about 5 years ago over Colorado and Nebraska. So we certainly need to find out who's behind this, and I do think it's an imperative for all of us. But at the same time, we also have to keep an open mind of what actually could be, because right now we don't have enough data, and if anybody out there does have the data, they're not sharing it. So I think, my personal perspective, if it's one of these scenarios where maybe there is some sort of WMD somewhere, I'm okay with telling America that. I think it's okay for the general population to know what's actually going on. We can handle ourselves in a way that, we don't necessarily freak out about it.